Hey students, you are getting ready to embark upon this wonderful, amazing thing called value. I'm going to write that here because this is a pretty important word. Value takes somebody who can draw pretty okay and makes it look like they are the most amazing drawers in the world. So let's go ahead and get started. The best way to learn how to actually create value is by practicing it. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. Mr. Stropko put together these packets a pretty long time ago. He's been using them for a number of years, and they actually really, really do help. But there's a lot of words, and to be completely honest with you, I have not been good at reading all of these words. This packet is scanned and downloaded into Canvas where you can access it. It was based on photocopies that we made, so the photocopies are a little bit shaky, and I found that when I was able to demonstrate certain techniques in class, you guys were able to get better with it, and this is also going to help you guys a little bit. So up here, it's got some information, but I'm going to lead you through that information in here. So if you're doing just the packet and you're not listening to the video, this is what you need to know. You are going to work on value packet 1. You're going to complete numbers 1 through 10 in your sketchbook. They're going to be 1 point each, 10 points total. That 10 points is going to be on your daily assignments, on your formative grade, not your summative grade. You're being graded on your attempts at replicating the values. Make each practice about half a page. Really, truly, a quarter of a page is okay if you have a full-size sketchbook. So I basically tell people about the size of the palm of your hand. So that's about a quarter of 1, 2, 3, 4, if you think about it. So make each practice. Let's change that to a quarter of a page. Number 1 is on page 3. Number 2 is on page. Number 2 through 4 is on page 2. Number 5 is on page 3. Number 6 through 9 are on page 4. Number 10 is on page 6. There's an extra credit on page 7 or 8. It's 1 point of extra credit, but more or less it's just kind of fun to draw it if you want to give yourself a challenge. So let's go ahead and start talking here. When I go to blend, I'm not going to blend up and down. I'm going to blend across, pulling my pencils across. When I blend, I want to use the soft pencil that really gets good coverage. I don't want to use a pencil with streaky, pointy lines and scribbly lines. This says never blend across, always go up and down. Always go up and down, darker to lighter. I don't know if I completely agree with that, and I'll show you how to use it. So how to properly use a tortillon or a shading stone. If you have one of these at home, here they are. You want to go at it at an angle. You don't want to go straight up and down. Straight up and down destroys your tip. And so when I do this is dirty, and it just was able to leave a line already on there. And this is where we start. This is the back page, page 2. This is page 3, and this is number 1. Then we're going to go back to page 2, 2, 3, 4, and number 5. So this is the first thing we're going to go ahead and work on. I'm going to put this to the side here. And you're going to pick up your pencil. And number 5 is black. I drew this out here. Here's my number 1, and I wrote the word value scale. This first block is going to be my darkest black. And because I've drawn this rectangle, I'm going to fill this rectangle in. If you watched the video before this, I showed you my fancy pencil demonstration. My fancy pencil demonstration showed you how to use all the crazy fancy pencils. So if you happen to have that set, this right here, my blackest black, would be the highest number B pencil I had in my box. So for some of you, if you have a smaller box, I think they stop at like a 4B. Some of you might have a larger set and they might stop at 6B or 8B. That would be this pencil right. You know, that's what I would be using to color this section right here. But my regular everyday HB pencil filled this in nice and solid. And there we go. So on number 4, I don't want to color in as dark as I did there. Number 3, I don't want to color in as dark as I did there. Number 2, I don't want to color in super dark. So number 1, I'm going to leave that the paper color. So your paper color might be gray. Probably not. But some of you might have bought a sketchbook that had gray pages. So this right here is probably pretty good for a number 2. A number 3 should be a step darker than that. Actually, number 3 should be quite a bit darker than that because we are increasing the darkness to get to the very end there. My pencil is dull. It's not very, very pointy. I actually drew all these little pictures in my sketchbook first, like sketched out and wrote in what I wanted you guys to be aware of. And in doing so, it kind of dulled my pencil, and it's at the level that I want it to be at. And so I'm going to continue finessing this. I'm going to put the video on pause, and I'm going to continue finessing this. But hopefully you see where I have this light, this middle, this light, slightly darker, middle tone, and I'm working on this darker tone to get to this dark, dark tone.
Okay, so you've seen that I continued working on these. I'm not blending these because I really want to just kind of allow the pencil to speak for itself. But I am using my softer pencil, and I was shading this way, and then I started shading this way. And I'm trying to keep this as light as I can. I'm trying not to have any discernible lines other than the ones that are intersecting the value scale, maybe? I don't know if that's the right terminology, but so I have my darkest dark, and I have the next shade, a slightly lighter shade, my lighter shade here, and my lightest shade here. So this second tonal bar, I'm trying to do what I did here, but I want a transition between the darkest dark to the lightest light without having to stop and start. So I started by coloring this as dark as I can with my pencil, making sure that it's nice and smooth. And then I'm building into this. And I'm kind of using that bar that I have above here, this one right here, to kind of help me transition. Now, when we go back and do this again in January, because we will be doing this again, this project right here is going to lead up to a value study in still life. The one that we do in January is going to lead up to a value study on humans. Let me turn off that light to see if I can get a little bit less shine happening here. Graphite is a mineral. It's actually mined of all places in England. pencil. Your pencils are not lead. Lead is very, very poisonous and very, very dangerous. And we have not used lead in pencils in, I don't know, like hundreds of years. I'm sure it started out as pencil lead, and that's why it's called lead, but we've not used it for that purpose for a long time. But what I was getting at is that in January, you're going to do the same thing, but instead of having 5 blocks, you're going to actually have 10 blocks. So you're going to try and see how far you can push your value skills between then and now. And then if you ever do take any art classes in college, I had a professor that made me do this using, I think, and it's going to sound bad, but it was like 50 shades. We had to go from the lightest to the darkest with 50 different discernible shades. So, and yes, I know that's a book title and blah, 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 blah. So with this one, I am blending it. So this one I didn't blend. This one I'm blending. Now, when I blend, I pick up some of my graphite. And so I'm going to have to go back in, and I'm going to have to lay in some of this and kind of darken myself up a little bit again. And then I'm also going to go to the other end, and I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. Now, I use whatever tools I have available. Artists get really, really moody. I don't know, snobby. There's a certain level of snobbery in the art world that I think is completely absurd. Because artists, first and foremost, we should be creative. We should be able to use what we have available to us when we have it available. And there shouldn't be any snobbery. But there is a certain level of snobbery. I do use my finger occasionally. It makes for good blending. Sometimes my finger, I can get it in places that it's difficult to get this into. You can use Q-tips. They work really well. Sometimes if you get those Q-tips with the little points on them, those work well. You can also use makeup brushes. Makeup brushes blend things, but please don't turn around and then use it for your makeup too. So I'm blending this, and I have a transition between my darkest to my lightest. So I have my value scale, my tonal scale. This scale down here gets a little bit tricky. And this is, you can totally use a regular pencil for this, but I wanted to actually challenge myself. And so I'm using my mechanical pencil with a really small lead to see if I can do this. I'm not a personal crosshatcher, generally, although this is something that I'm kind of embracing more in my own art. I admire people who can do it, and in fact, I'm trying to get one of my former students. She was kind of the queen of crosshatching and building up these beautiful textures and these beautiful values with it. She did an entire portrait just doing cross-hatching, and from far away you couldn't tell. And you got up close, and her cross-hatching was absolutely beautiful. So if I can get a picture of it, I'm working on it. So cross-hatching is lines that are next to each other like this, and cross-hatching is when you come back. I find cross-hatching kind of unnatural for myself. I find it very comfortable doing my marks this from I guess right to left, top to bottom, and I find going this opposite direction is kind of clunky for my own personal mechanics, the way my own hand works and the way my brain works, my muscles work. You might find that the other way is more comfortable, or you might find that cross-hatching in general feels very comfortable. Olivia liked cross-hatching a whole lot better. She could go both directions. Her cross-hatching was neat, tidy, and very pretty. So what I'm doing is I'm building in some dark transition here. I am not blending at all. I'm just using my pencil. I'm once again, though, using this light to dark up here to try to be a guide for what I'm doing down here. So you can see where I'm getting. I think I dragged my finger across there because I know that I wasn't trying to blend that. But this is that the third tonal bar on my paper. So we completed number 1, working on number 3. This one was the example for number 2. And then this is the example for number 3. So this one's saying that it needed to be blended. This one is crosshatched. And I feel like because I'm not a photocopy, and this one's a photocopy, you can kind of see that transition better here. But this is essentially this, and this is essentially this. I'm lighter here, and so I'm darkening this up. If I was using my other pencil would be softer at this point. Not softer, just the point itself would be less pronounced. And I would be able to get this the darker that I want it to be. But purposely challenging myself. And that's a good thing. So I got some issues here I'm not terribly happy with, but if I hold it up here, you can see where I'm dark, and I'm gradually getting lighter. In the place where I would use this, to give you a sense, I have my dark in here and built in, and I didn't do a lot of blending on this portrait. Like I said, I'm trying to actually get to this point when I start to where I'm doing more cross hatching. And so I'm building this in. There were areas that did blend a little bit, and they blended a little bit partly because I went back and I erased out some areas. But the more I start to build in areas of value on any of my pictures, the more my picture becomes three-dimensional, and it starts to build in. But this is a section where you see the cross-hatching. I was really rough on the neck, and I did do a little bit of blending, and I did do a lot of line work, and it was really scribbly. While I kind of paid more attention to some of this stuff up here. It is a good idea to try to allow the lines to help define a particular area. So when you go to start working, think about the direction that the lines go and how they would curve around something. So I didn't just do straight marks on here. I have the lines coming in from the side of my face and the lines going kind of across my face this direction. So I'm trying to be more thoughtful about that myself too. That's something I'm working on. But that's kind of where we're going with this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and end this video but I'll be picking it up for 4 and 5 on the next one. So